So we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome. My name is Brian King on the community team at Couchbase. Today is the 23rd of September, 2025, and this is the latest in our community/developer webinars for you to learn more about Couchbase. And I'm delighted that today the topic is Couchbase MCP and building applications using it. And our speaker today is Georgina Sampson. Georgina is based in the US East Coast as a solutions engineer at Couchbase. And I will ask Georgina to say a few more words about herself and then take it away. So over to you, Georgina. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Georgina. I'm an associate solutions engineer here at Couchbase. I've been here for about a year. My background comes from data engineering. So I really wanted to get into solutions engineering with a database company like Couchbase because I've had some struggles being a data engineer. And I'm excited to be here and excited to show you guys about MCP. And with that being said, I guess we can get started. So the agenda today, a light Couchbase introduction. Then we'll talk about what is MCP, followed by the benefits of MCP, and then a light Couchbase MCP server demo. So for those who haven't heard of Couchbase before, we are a NoSQL document database platform. We are both self-managed and fully in the cloud. One of the things that really attracted to me about Couchbase in the beginning, and some of the things I learned while being a data engineer, was with each project, there was a different select of tools or technologies, right? So as an application and requirements grow, things started to look a little more like this, right? So where app requirements, use a variety of data management and technologies, Couchbase really attracted me because it was a platform. And what do I mean by that? So Couchbase has a fast, affordable, versatile, and easy as SQL database platform. I like to say it's developer friendly. So basically, talking points to the slide, we think about Couchbase's integrated capabilities. This allows developers and everybody to support many different functional requirements in a single database. This once again reduces that data sprawl and the headaches that come along with creating very complex pipelines. So, what are some advantages here? Well, it's fast. Architecture-wise, we are memory-first architecture. We also have elastic scaling and automated replication and synchronization that gives us fast performance from cloud to edge for millions of users. It's affordable as well. Our high-performance cloud architecture, it delivers leading price performance of database and service vendors. The scalability and flexibility allows us to drive down TCO and experiment in a cost-effective way, right? To test new ideas without breaking budgets, which is important with, a lot of different projects and things coming out with AI as well. On top of that, it's versatile. Data stored as JSON documents, which allows much more flexibility compared to relational databases, right? We have multi-model access services. Developers can kind of build cooler, I would say, and build more useful applications quickly. And then last but not least, it's easy. Couchbase is designed to make the transition from, like I mentioned, relational database to simple, flexible databases such as JSON. So we can move in a flexible, modern stack. So it's all of this together basically helps, induce faster release cycles, less duplication, data sprawl, scalability, less time of maintenance, everything's in one. You don't have to worry about versioning all the time, lower operational costs because everything is on one platform, lower infrastructure costs. So here, sorry, I kind of jumped back. Okay. So that's a little bit about Couchbase as a platform, right? And we didn't go too deep into it because we do have a time limit today. So I really kind of wanted to jump into MCP. MCP has, I'm sure a lot of us have heard of MCP. It came around, I think, last year or early this year. And it's actually very useful and it's pretty exciting. So that being said, what is it, right? So MCP is an open source standard for connecting AI applications to external systems. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, using MCP, AI applications like Claude or ChatGPT, right? They can now connect to data sources, your data sources, local files, databases like Couchbase, different tools, whether it's search engines, calculators, and then your workflows, so specialized prompts that you've written. All of this together enables these AI applications to access key information and perform tasks. So something you can also say is at the heart of modern AI agents is the idea of an augmented LLM, a language model that can go beyond text and use outside knowledge or tools, right? So MCP is not the augmented model itself, but it's a standard that makes it possible by giving LLMs a structured way to access the tools and the data and the context from applications. So once it gets that context, AI agents can then autonomously decide which tools to use in order to complete a task. So what I mean by this is think of MCP as a universal adapter that allows AI models to seamlessly access the context they need to produce more relevant, accurate, and actionable responses. Like this. Once again, we can see all these different tools, technologies, interfaces. This is what MCP can give us availability to. So this kind of goes back to what I just mentioned. Think of MCP like a USB-C port for AI applications. Just as a USB-C port provides a standardized way to connect electronic devices, MCP provides a standardized way to connect AI applications to external systems. So that's great. It sounds great. We can do all of these things. We can make incredible AI applications with all these technologies. Okay, so can we have an example of what that might look like? Okay, well, what can MCP enable with all these technologies and access to these technologies? For instance, you could have agents that can access your Google Calendar and the application Notion, which is a note-taking app, acting as a more personalized AI assistant for yourself. Something like Claude Code can generate an entire web app using a Figma design. Then you have something that we're going to kind of be similar to today is enterprise chatbots that can connect to multiple databases across an organization, empowering users to analyze data using chat. And then AI models can create 3D designs on Blender and print them out using a 3D printer. All of these are just different examples of what MCP can achieve. And that's great, but how can it achieve this? How does it do all this wonderful work to give us these wonderful AI applications? Well, the first is standardized communication. So what this is instead of every AI model needing its own custom code to talk to each system, MCP gives them all a shared language to use. So for instance, without MCP, if you want ChatGPT to talk to Couchbase, Salesforce, Slack, you're going to have to write 3 separate integrations. With MCP, they all plug into the same MCP framework, so the AI can talk to each of them using one consistent setup. Once again, imagine it, one universal phone charger instead of carrying chargers for different devices. That's standardized communication. Then we have advanced context management. So this is quite important because, with LLMs, there's constraints, right? And this brings up that context window. Imagine having a customer support agent. Without MCP, maybe after 20 messages, the AI forgets what was said earlier. With MCP, the AI can look back into a database of chat history through MCP and keep the conversation coherent. Basically, like a person checking their notebook to remember what was said in a meeting last week. It has that memory. It has the ability to pull historical data or context when needed. Then we have our secure data access, connections, permissions. We have tool use and actionability, which is a big one, right? So what this means, again, is that MCP lets AI models not just read data, but also do things with the tools. An example, again, is that there's an AI travel agent. You could use MCP to book a flight, not just tell you flight options. An AI assistant could use MCP to email through Outlook, not just draft an email, right? And then we have the fact, once again, like that chart I showed you earlier, the availability of different tools, models, systems that can work together through MCP instead of being siloed. So that kind of goes back to the first standardized communication. But for example, an AI legal assistant uses Couchbase MCP server to search documents, then a Salesforce MCP server to update client records, all in the same workflow. Everyone can work together, and once again, all in the same workflow. So short, standardized communication, one plug for everything, enhanced context, it remembers stuff from a while ago, secure access, tools can act, they can't just talk, and then everyone can play together. So that's a little bit about how it does it and why it's reliable and exciting, I think. And then this is a little chart that we have, and I'll show you later the website that Couchbase has. They have a blog on the Couchbase MCP server. This is the chart that I got off that website. So I'll just kind of go through this, the starting point. So we have the user. A user asks a question or makes a request in plain language, right? Show me top 10 products sold last month. This request is not directly a database query, right? It needs interpretation. Here comes the AI agent, the MCP client layer. So the query first goes through the AI agent, like it could be LangChain, Claude, Cursor, any LLM-powered app. These agents handle natural language and figure out, what the user actually wants to do with the data. But the AI agent itself cannot directly query Couchbase, so this is that it needs a mediator. So then you have your Couchbase MCP server. This is where Couchbase MCP server comes in, right? So think of it as the bridge between the AI agents and the Couchbase clusters. So it leverages the MCP protocol via Studio or HTTP. We don't have the SSE anymore protocol because HTTP is a little bit better now. So yeah, but today I'll be talking about the Studio protocol in a little bit more detail. That's going to be what we use today. So basically, it leverages the MCP protocol via Studio or HTTP. So many MCP compatible clients can talk to it. So basically, its job is to securely retrieve structured requests from AI agent and translate them into database operations using our Couchbase Python SDK. Because today we're going to be using the OpenAI Agents SDK. Then we have capabilities of Couchbase MCP server. The server exposes 3 categories of functionality, right? We see the tools, the functions, running the queries, inserting update documents, performing vector search, right? Then we have the resources, which exposes the data models, schemas, key indexes, where the AI is going to query. And then we have our prompts, which provide, query templates or structured request patterns that the AI agents can reuse. We'll also talk about this more in depth in a little bit. And then you have the Couchbase cluster itself. So once the MCP server interprets the AI agent's intent, right? Server understands the AI agent's intent from the query. It executes against the Couchbase cluster. And this can both be Capella, our database as a service, or self-managed. The cluster handles the heavy lifting, right? The running queries, or retrieving the documents, managing indexes, or handling, vector search. And then it comes back to the user, right? Returning the results. The MCP server takes the raw result from Couchbase and formats them. The AI agent then processes those results, possibly summarizing them into human readable language. And then finally, the user receives an answer that feels conversational and intelligent. So basically what I'm trying to say here is that all of this is done via MCP. MCP allows us to connect to those external sources, right? So I think with that, we can go ahead and start to discuss the demo. And there are, I know that you can probably see all my little tabs up here. I'm going to take you through. So what I wanted to show you first is we are first going to be, I've already done this, obviously, but I've cloned this repo, and we're going to be looking at how I put that into play. And then also, I wanted to show you that initial Couchbase blog, right? So this is where I got that initial chart, and it has a variety of information. If anybody wants to take a look, just search up MCP server for Couchbase, and there's a lot of resources here if anybody needs. So those are the two things, the repo that we're using today, and then this blog. And then also I'm going to show you what free tier is. And why am I showing you this? Because you can run this project yourself with free tier. So let's go through the Jupyter Notebook first, and then I'll show you free tier. So as you can see, here's just more of that information that we already kind of discussed. What is MCP, the features of MCP, basically that it's breaking down these data silos, making it easier for us to integrate with real-world applications, enterprise systems, leading to more context-aware solutions. And then we have a little bit more discussion. And then this is some of the prerequisites. So before you do start, there are you're going to have to get some credentials for OpenAI, but it doesn't have to be OpenAI. If you have Bedrock credentials, you can filter that in. If you want to use Nebius credentials, you can fill that in. It's easy to taper to. So it doesn't have to be just OpenAI. And we'll talk about that more as we go. And let's go and see how you create and deploy a free operational cluster on Capella. So I'm signed out. Now I'm going to sign in. But all you have to do here is try for free. Here you can add your full name, your email address, and you're going to create a password, or you can use your GitHub account or Google. Just remember your password here if you do it manually, because you're going to have to enter that back. But once you create that, you enter, and then you can see the UI, which let's take a look. And I hope everything's going so far, and it's looking okay. It's making sense. Please, if anybody has questions, we're all here. So this is what our Capella looks like. Wow, okay, that's nice. So a little bit about the UI, and then I'll get into our project again. So as you can see, I created a free tier cluster. And how do I do that? Well, first, when you log in, you'll see this button in the center because you haven't created a cluster yet, right? So before that, you're going to go to projects, and you're going to create a project. Usually when you create a project, your first project name will be my first project, and that's automatic. So with free tier, let's go ahead and create that. Assign it to a project. And there's only one free tier account per organization. So, but you just have to keep it active for 30 days in a row. And then if there's any warnings, you'll get an email or a text about it. So, but it's completely free for literally forever if you need. Yeah. So you select your free cluster and then you press continue. We'll go back here. And then you'll have a cluster that's been created. Now, free tier clusters, they automatically come with your sample data included. So let's take a quick look. And we're going to be going back and forth between this Jupyter Notebook and this cluster data as well, because we want to check that our, when we use our MCP, we want to check that our responses from the AI were correct and our data is correct, right? So let's go ahead and look in this cluster. So we'll go to the Data Tools tab. Wow, okay, so I see my travel sample data, right? So like I said, travel sample data is included with free tier. If you paid for a trial that wasn't free tier, you can always just go to import, and there's multiple ways to import data, whether you want to update, a Kaggle data set, any type of data set you want to load with our cbit import command, or load sample data, which we already have travel sample data. Then we have our query tab. Oops. You can see we can select our bucket, which is a scope, or sorry, our schema, which is a scope, and our bucket, which is our DB, and our collections. So our collections are tables in the relational database world. But as you can see here, yes, we're NoSQL, we're JSON format, right? But we get to query in SQL++. SQL++ is really, really similar to SQL. It's not, we don't have our own query language for you to play around. It's really approachable, and that's why I always kind of go ahead and talk back to being developer friendly. Not only can you write SQL++ queries in here, which is called the workbench, we have Capella IQ. So what's Capella IQ? Capella IQ is probably one of my favorite parts. Capella IQ allows you to ask questions in natural language. So what if I wanted to write, let's see, let's go to our travel sample bucket, our scope. Let's go to airline. It's going to create prompts for us so we can see, okay. Oh. Well, it usually works. That's what happens when you do live demos, I guess. But sorry about that, but it usually works. I've actually never seen that before. That's how live demos are, I guess, but it's very cool. And you not only get to ask prompts or play around with suggested questions, you can write in natural language, show me a few questions, and it'll come out with the query. You press run, and then you'll get your results out here. You can also have your results come in table format. You can also use charts to visualize your queries, and not to mention we can handle complex joins, user-defined functions, things like that. So let's kind of recircle back to our project, right? It's 11:25. So, my time. So let's check this data. So we see our inventory bucket. Okay, let's check out hotel collection. So this is nice. I can see limit per page. If I want to search for doc ID here, an ID range. Do I want to SQL where something equals this here? Of course I can. But I can also view it here. And then one of the flexible things that we love about JSON is you can edit something and save it right here. So compared to those relational databases, it's a lot more flexible to uphold a pipeline. None of that ETL and painful cleanup sometimes, So this is basically a little overview. There's a lot of things that I haven't touched here, but I really want to make sure that we get to go through our demo. So, which is quite short and light. But any other questions, maybe at the end, I can show you more about monitoring, billing settings, things like that. But let's get back to the fun stuff. Let's go back and look at our script. So we have our cluster set up, right? So we've seen our data. Let's get to the next part. So what I said that I'd done already is that I've already cloned this, and that's why you see it obviously in Jupyter Notebook, because I decided for demos, it's better kind of to do demos in Jupyter Notebook. I've always enjoyed using Jupyter Notebook, but there's a variety of IDEs, whatever to your liking you can use. So I did all the setup, right? And then I first installed OpenAI, right? And once again, this is exactly the tutorial that we have online. So installing some libraries, right? So basically, what are these libraries again? So .env is for loading secret API keys and other settings from a .environment file. We have the agents, right? OpenAI agents. These are custom modules related to the agent framework being used, providing core agent functionalities, a way to run agents, generate trace IDs, for debugging or monitoring and capabilities, tracing capabilities. So today, like you see up top, OpenAI agents is the official agentic framework from OpenAI, and that is what we'll be using today for our MCP client, kind of how we saw in that chart. Then we have agents.mcp, once again, last but not least, custom modules for interacting with MCP, specifically setting up an MCP server, possibly one that communicates over standard input-output studio, right? So running this cell gets you, all the libraries you need. So we've done that, and you can see that I've ran these already, but I can do it again if you guys like. So now that we have that, let's start kind of the code, right? So what we're doing first is we're designing the question answering function. So what this cell does is this cell defines asynchronous functions, right? Q&A agent that we'll use to interact with our agent, right? So it takes the created agent as an argument, and we haven't created that yet. It's just the function of the code. We'll create that towards the end. This is just setting up for when that code gets initiated. So it defines basically a series of example questions, as we can see, right, as strings that are going to be posted to the agent. So for each question, then it'll call await runner.run, to get the agent's response. The method is responsible for executing the agent with the given input, right? Then the agent in turn queries Couchbase MCP to retrieve travel-related data, right? Queries the Couchbase MCP to retrieve travel-related data, formats it, presents it as the final output, which is then printed, as you'll see below. So this function basically allows us to get or test the agent with multiple queries and observe its responses. And we'll double check them later and see if they're correct. So tell me about your database that you're connected to. List me 5 hotels in France. And remember that we do have that travel sample data set, right? So we'll go ahead and check the hotel collection and see if the answers are correct. Recommend me a flight and hotel from New York to San Francisco, so on and so forth. So that's that cell, right? Then we have our system prompts. System prompts, right? It's a piece of instruction to give your LLM that powers our agent. It basically sets the context. It defines the agent's persona, capabilities, and constraints. In this system prompt, we'll explain the, data hierarchy, the cluster, the bucket, the scope, collection, document, things like that, right? Where the data is to help the LLM understand how the data is organized. We'll specifically then instruct that the data is in the inventory scope, and you can see this below. The data is inside the inventory scope. Only use that scope. And then we provide SQL++ guidelines, right? Any query you generate needs to only have this collection name in the from clause. Every field, collection, scope, or bucket name inside the query should be inside backticks. Basically, I'm sure we know, prompts, but the overall goal is basically to help guide the LLM to use the provided MCP tools, which are Couchbase operations functions, right? Effectively, and to formulate the correct SQL queries for the inventory scope. So that's some prompt for context, right? And then this is where we configure the agent and large language model. So this part sets up and creates the agent. So you know how this one says OpenAI Agents MCP tutorial. Well, like I mentioned before, you can use really any kind of model you want. Whatever keys you have, you can utilize. If you want to taper your code to Bedrock, if you want to taper it to use Nebius, or if you want to go ahead and use OpenAI, just like the original, you can go ahead. It's not hard to go between models, and I think that's what really is easy for this tutorial. So as you can see, we are, for this, using Nebius. And if you haven't heard of Nebius before, it's basically an open source platform with a variety of models that you can utilize. And you can collect function calling and tools and, taper to whatever, model you'd like to use. So one, I wanted to test out OpenAI first. It worked. Two, I want to try and see if we can use something else and have it work. And this is what that is. So the model we went with is Qwen. She's a good LLM, for everyday tasks. So we went with that one. So as you can see, we use the Nebius API key that I have. And then the cell sets up and creates our agent. So as you can see, agent equals agent. Here, this, if I put this in coding mode, this would just be the same exact part as you would see in the cookbook, which is right here. And that's the only difference. So connected to our model, right? And now let's initialize the MCP server and run the agent. So what this cell does, and this will be our last cell, this cell, it starts the MCP server. It initializes our MCP server. So it uses our environment file, which contains our database connection and details. And what that is my API key, my Couchbase connection, and the bucket name, things like that. And if you ever do need to find that in Capella, you just go to settings. You can go to access control. Sorry. And you can go to connect. You can see your public, your string. You can set access details. You can select all IPs allowed if you'd like. But all of that information is here, easily viewable in your UI. So that's the information that I put in my .env file. So we have that information now, right? We're connected with Nebius. And yeah, we're ready to go. So basically what happens here is the agent then will attempt to answer the questions defined in the Q&A function above, right? It's going to, throw in some reasoning about the question. And also that can depend on which model you use, right? Some models have more reasoning, some, less. It depends on what you want. It's going to have to decide, do we need the Couchbase tool? It's going to formulate the query based on the prompts, right? It's going to send the query to the MCP server, which then runs on Couchbase, and using the tool's output to generate a natural language response. So let's see that in action. Once again, just edit with your details here. And this is where we initialize our Couchbase MCP server. So I hope everyone's still with me, but this is our final output. And this is a very lightweight tutorial, and you can build on this. And there's other LangChain tutorials, and I'll show you a little bit more. But let's see some of our outputs, right? So our first question, tell me about the database you're connected to. Well, now I have a good understanding of your database structure. Let me see what I found. The database I'm connected to is a Couchbase cluster containing a data named travel sample. You see the cluster, the bucket level, the scopes, collections or tables, landmark, hotel, airport, just a little bit more about our data. Each collection contains JSON documents. So let's go to a little bit about some of the other questions, right? List me 5 hotels in France. Oh, okay. Well, let's see if it's actually there, huh? So let's see in my collection. Let's see. Let's go to data tools. Oh, right here. The Robins. Let's see if it's correct. Oh, wow. Yeah, it's right. City. I don't know how to say that city. But yeah, okay. All of these are in that collection. I've double checked. I don't want to waste your time here, but great. It also gives us a little description about the hotel, which is lovely. And okay, what about the next one? Recommend me a flight, hotel, and a hotel from New York to San Francisco. Oh, I can't recommend flights or hotels if I don't have access to real-time booking system. We don't have data from New York to San Francisco flights. So that's a good response. Running, going to the UK for a week, My budget is around £30 for a night. What will be the best hotel to stay in? The Pines, room for... So you can see that it's actually using our different collections, and it's giving our different responses based on those that data and those collections. So all in all, basically, we can see that MCP gives us the availability to utilize, different models, but different technologies in one workflow. And you can build it for multiple agents, you can expand the amount of tools that you have, things like that. I think it's really going to be, it's only going to grow as AI agents grow. Everyone's saying the word for us, AI agents. And MCP really helps with kind of the workflow and the manageability of all those technologies, and to have it under, MCP is a lot easier for developers using complex pipelines. So that's a little bit about Couchbase MCP. Once again, if anybody has more questions, they want to see a little bit more about other things that they can do in Capella, we can talk about that. I think we have someone in the chat room that can help with questions if anybody has questions. But yeah, hopefully you guys learned a little bit. We have quite a few Git repositories. Couchbase examples. We also have the MCP server Couchbase README as well. And all of this are under Couchbase GitHub repo. So yeah, if you guys want, we can send it all out later. This will be recorded. And if anybody has questions, please let me know.
All righty. I'm just checking, Georgina. Thank you for that. And thank you very much. Virtual applause for you. So there's one question that's come in on YouTube. What is the HTTP streamable versus standard I/O?
Yep. So that's actually a good question. So the studio is basically for more localized frameworks. So I'm using this on Jupyter, right? And I'm using this on my laptop. You could use Docker, you could use things like that, but basically HTTP uses from client to server with optionable server sent events, as you see here. But basically, I don't need to use Studio Transport. I would use Studio Transport here because it's a small use case. If it was different frameworks, different systems, I would use HTTP. That's probably more so used.
Okay. Another question. Hello, and thank you for the presentation. What are the deployment options for MCP Couchbase? Is that running as a separate service, such as eventing analytics?
No, it's not a separate service. There's multiple ways to run it. And I don't know if Chevet is online, but we have the ability to run it on Docker. I just ran it via code, but it's quite, I would say, probably still in a little bit early stages. But I can get back to you on the whole list of ways, but there are a variety of ways.
Okay. Next question. Can you share more about the OpenAI Agents SDK? Can we use MCP with other agent frameworks?
Yeah. So OpenAI is just so if we go here, where am I? So if we look here, AI agents or MCP clients, so we would use the OpenAI Agents SDK, right? For this, right? There's different, like you can see, there's different frameworks. You can use LangChain. Like I said, you can use like coding assistance. It depends on what you're looking for, I guess. But yeah, pretty much any model. But yeah, Docker, things like that. Does that answer your question? Sorry.
Yeah, Shiva is kind of jumping in the comments on YouTube as well with comments. Docker, MCP gateway, Smithery, any registry that can host the MCP server, basically. Mm-hmm. Now with remote HTTP, you can also have a remote MCP server and run it. But we are working on separate MCP server for Sync Gateway. Okay. Any more questions? Now is your chance. Let's give it a minute.
I hope I didn't bore anybody.
Well, I learned something today, so.
Oh, good. That's nice of you to say. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you. Let me see if I can think of a question. Well, in lieu of a question, what I will do is I will just plug Couchbase community. So come and join us if you want to participate further and learn more. I'll just share a few things with you. One is our Discord server. I'll be adding that to the description of the events afterwards. I can't edit it live, but it's also in the comments there on YouTube. We have engineers hanging out on Discord who can answer your questions, but we also love to hear about stuff that you're building. We have our community forums at couchbase.com/forums. And we just relaunched our Couchbase Academy on a new platform. So it's shiny, it's new, some great content there. I think there's an AI course and certification. Don't quote me on that, but there's definitely some AI content in there, and we'll be growing that out further. So there's just a few of the ways to participate with the Couchbase community.
And try free tier. It's free.
Oh, yes, 100% free tier. I'll add that link in as well. Okay, let's give 30 more seconds for any more questions. I'm going to just check on LinkedIn as well, see if anything came in. No. All right, so I think we'll leave it at that for today, Georgina.
Okay.
Really enjoyed that presentation. And here Shiva has a question. What do you prefer, MCP with Couchbase or Python SDK with Couchbase? Don't know if that's a question or if that's a true comparison.
Sorry, what was the question?
What do you prefer, MCP with Couchbase or Python SDK with Couchbase?
I like MCP with Couchbase.
Yeah, it's not necessarily an apples to apples comparison, right? But with Couchbase, you can
the SDK is part of the MCP, so it would be the MCP client, which is part of the framework. But you had me for a sec.
Yeah, but from my understanding anyway, my non-technical understanding, it's more natural language interaction with Couchbase using MCP, right? You can, whatever sort of AI application, it may be text prompts, but it could be voice, it could be sensor triggered or whatever, right? So it seems to me that it gives you a lot more flexibility rather than just coding it in Python, for example.
Yeah. And with all those functionalities and those key goals of MCP, right? Just the ability to decide when to get historical data when needed, things like that. There's a kind of a whole package there, which I'm excited. I think it's going to be very useful the more people start to include agents in their pipelines.
Okay. So we leave it at that, Georgina. And again, thank you. And we hope to see you again on Couchbase Dev Streams moving forward. This is automatically recorded and is up at YouTube. So please share it far and wide with your friends. And we hope to see you on our Discord server and in our Couchbase community. So enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.